It'll be good.
Nice. Thanks, Steve.
Uh-huh.
Awesome. All right. So welcome to this evening's webinar on Graspable Math, Tools to Help with Distance Learning with Steve Phelps. My name is Justin Brennan. I'm one of the grade 9 to 12 directors for ICTM. ICTM plays an important role in providing professional learning and professional development with these webinars. But if you're interested in providing such a webinar, you can always email us at webinar@ictm.org. Unfortunately, we were supposed to have NCTM annual this week here in Chicago, and that obviously didn't go on. But we are having our ICTM annual conference in October 17th in 2020 at Joliet Junior College. And we're currently accepting proposals for that. So if you want to speak to that, the deadlines are April 15th for that. You can go to the ICTM website to find that. Before we get going here with Steve, I knew I had a slide on that. So there you go. So April 15th is the deadline if you want to attend or to be a speaker for our annual conference in Joliet. Another thing too is we are very fortunate to have a webinar sponsored by Whitebook. Whitebook flip charts are portable, reusable whiteboards. Whiteboard sheets that you use for classrooms or for professional development. Whitebook flip charts have a blank side on one side and the other side's a graph grid for all your graphing needs. And it's a great way to economically transform a learning space into a thinking classroom. So even if your new space is currently like mine, my dining room, which is now our new homeschooling area, you can see we have some white books up in our dining room to help my kids with skip counting and all kinds of fun math things. But anyway, we're going to give away a white book at the end of the webinar today. So at the end, I'll ask you guys to put your name in the chat window at the very end, and you guys will be it'll be a random drawing for a white book set, which is a $60 value. And even if you don't win, well, you can just go to Whitebook and type in the coupon code 40ICTM and you get 40% off your first order. So we're really, really appreciative of Whitebook for sponsoring this. And now we'll talk about Steve. So Steve, he is currently, everything falls at the last second. Steve is currently an instructional technology consultant at Hamilton County Cincinnati Education Service Center. He spent 28 years as a math teacher in Cincinnati. He's a Desmos Fellow, a T3 National Instructor, and co-author of Advanced Quantitative Reasoning. Like I said, if you have a question during the webinar, please type it in the Q&A session, and I'll let Steve know. And like I said, this is going to be recorded, but there are some delays in Zoom, so don't expect it to be posted in for a couple days. So, all right, with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, Steve. All right?
Yeah. Okay, ready. So how's it going, everyone? I know I can't hear you, so I don't know why I'm asking questions. So here's the plan. So again, remote learning with Graspable Math. Man, if you have not seen Graspable Math, this is awesome. This is awesome. So here's my agenda. So my thoughts are like, what the heck is Graspable Math? And then, and there is going to be audience participation. So I'm assuming you are at some sort of a computer. Everything we do tonight would probably work better with a laptop or a desktop, but iPads will work, but I don't know how you'd leave the meeting. So it's going to be kind of weird if you're on an iPad. But if you're on a laptop, make sure you have like another browser window open so you can kind of play along with us tonight. So, so after we talk about what it is, we'll do an order of operations activity, show you quickly how you could make your own thing, which is awesome. And then a Graspable Math has this new thing that they've just released for all of our remote learning stuff that everyone's going through. And it's called Activities, and it has a very much kind of like a Desmos activity builder flair to it. So it's kind of cool. So, so let's talk about like, what is Graspable Math? So this is it's free. First off, it is free, and it provides students an opportunity to kind of approach mathematics, algebra, order of operations, solving equations, kind of approach it from an experimental point of view. It gives kids a chance to kind of play, to play with these objects in a way that's kind of like, you know, I wonder what would happen if I did this. And they can do these things. They can practice and explore in kind of a safe way, because no one is there to judge them, and no one is there to say that they're wrong or that they're right. They can just kind of do it. And I know my personal experience, I've used it with my students last year before I left the classroom. And this year I've had a chance to kind of use it with a couple of other classes. And I used it with an unsuspecting Algebra 1 class in an inner city school. My thoughts are that maybe they would just kind of use it to get the answer. But I really found that the students were really more interested into why things were behaving the way they were behaving within Graspable Math. And they were really focused more on the structure of what was going on. So Graspable Math is a great way. And I think with the activities, you have some some nice opportunities during this remote learning that we're all kind of experiencing. I know you guys are there, and we are here in Cincinnati in Ohio. So anyway, let me go on to the next slide. So this first one here is order of operations. Order of operations. So if you would like to go to this tinyurl.com/ICTM 000-1, 000 meaning order of operations, and 1 meaning this is the first thing we're doing tonight. So if you'd like to go to tinyurl.com and /ICTM 000-1, and then I'm going to go to it up here as well. And so, of course, I have no way to tell if you're even in this or not. Maybe you could say something like in the chat window for me. Maybe you could say something like, I'm here, I'm in. The link will, thank you. The link works with thank you. So something like that, just to let me know, oh yes, that's the attitude I want, kids. Yes. So as you get in, so I will show you a little lowercase o. Actually, I don't think it really matters in tinyurls. I think in tinyurls you can put whatever you'd like.
I put the link in the chat if you want.
Rock on. That is fantastic. Link is in the chat, but I'll flash it up here again, tinyurl.com / Perfect. Oh, thank you. It kind of looks like ICT moo 1, but that would be a cow joke. Okay. So anyway, so when you're in this, so this is an order of operations kind of a thing. If you click on an operation, if that operation can be performed, it will be performed. If you can't do it, so for example, if I click on the subtraction symbol there, the two things I'm subtracting just kind of shake. And then there's this little dot. If you like to take that little dot and clone it, you can drag that little dot to the right and clone it, because I'd like you to try to evaluate this expression in 2 different ways. And then, so go ahead. And then this page is infinitely long. So you can actually scroll down the page and see some other order of operation things. So let's see, I don't know. I'm going to do that first. Oh, and notice how it kind of pops down. If yours doesn't pop down like that to show your steps, I will show you what to do. And then now I'm going to do subtraction next. Wait a minute, aren't you supposed to do multiplication before you do subtraction? But Graspable Math lets kids explore doing order of operations maybe in different orders. So you don't have to do multiplication before you do subtraction. But in this case, I have to. So I'll do that. Ooh. Still can't do that. Still can't do that yet. So I got to do that. And I got to do that. I can do subtraction before addition. Okay, so help me out, kids. Help me out. Do me a favor. In the chat window, so I can see what you're chatting about. In the chat window, what are your initial thoughts of this? maybe in 1 or 2 or 3 words. Don't put a whole bunch. Don't put a whole bunch. Just what are your initial thoughts of playing with order of operations in this way? And just put maybe a couple words or two. Ooh. I think 5th graders can do this. Yeah, I think if you're doing order of operations, I would try to do something like this. If you scroll down a little bit further, there's a couple of other order of operations if you'd like to try them. What I'm interested though is like, we know the rules. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, you know, and the kids come to that and they can repeat that, but they really never know what the heck it means. And so I'm thinking that, again, we can kind of explore doing order of operations differently. So like in this 10 minus 5 minus 2 minus 3, what minus are you going to do? I agree with that. I agree with that. And so, Kathy, I like what you had said. I like what you said there, and that's where the teaching art kind of comes into play, because now you can kind of orchestrate that discussion around what's going on in the graspable math. So I'll give you another minute or so to play around, and then we'll kind of I'll show you guys how if you ever wanted to try to make your own, how you could make your own. But I'll give you guys another minute. I'm gonna count like the 60 seconds in my head, and I'll let you guys play around with this. And again, I'm watching the chat too, because I like to kind of connect with you guys a little bit. So if there's something that you have a question about too, I can see it right now as well. Yeah, I like that. That's the experimental part about it. It helps with the order of operations, but so how do you explain that? How do you explain that to kids that I can do subtraction first here, but I can't do subtraction first there, or that I can do subtraction before I do multiplication in some cases? So I'm not sure that the way this is structured right here will be particularly useful in the remote learning world, but the activities that I'll show you here in a second can be. I think this would be nice in a typical teacher room kind of a world. Oh, you guys are awesome. I appreciate you guys contributing into the chat for me so I can see what you guys are thinking. So sometimes the steps, that's from Jenny. Jenny, that's a great question. Sometimes the steps show, sometimes it doesn't. When I duplicated my first expression, I think that kind of triggers the steps to show. But for example, in this example right here, my 10 minus 5, my steps are not showing. But what I can do is I can grab that little circle and I can drag that circle down and it will show my steps. So I think my steps started to show because I cloned that expression originally. And by cloning the expression, I mean, I kind of grabbed that circle and kind of dragged it to the right to give me another instance of that expression.
Steve, there was one question in the chat that was, so students can't see what you're doing. You're in this in and of itself, this space, you're not going to be able to see what a student does.
Not here in this space, but in the next space, yes. And so that is what I'll show you guys. So if you're interested, I'll pull on, let's pause on this part of the activity. If you are interested, in the upper right-hand corner, you can go up there and log in and create an account. I would just log in with my Gmail credentials. You are going to have to log in order to save an activity, or to share an activity. And then once you've logged in, if I wanted to create an activity from scratch, something like this, in the upper right-hand corner, there's this kind of like there's 7 buttons, and I'm going to click on the new button. I don't know what's going to happen when I click on the new button. So, and then, so this gives me a blank canvas. And then in the upper left-hand corner, the far upper left-hand corner, there is a button that says Insert. And these are the different things that I can insert into a Graspable Math canvas. And I can insert a YouTube video, so I could make a video for my students and they could kind of do some Graspable Mathy things on the side. I could, all of these things that I had entered were math expressions. There's also a wonderful integration with GeoGebra and the Geometry app and the GeoGebra 3D. And it really is, it kind of bridges the gap. It kind of goes past sliders. So if you're familiar with sliders and equations, it kind of bridges that gap. So if I wanted to create one of these activities for my students, if I click on math expression, and I can just type in anything I want, plus 4a minus 5b, and I can just type that in. It can be an equation or an expression. And then this could be something I would want my students to, for example, to simplify. And the trick here is when there are multiple, when there are like a coefficient and a variable, if I kind of pull that 2 down, the x kind of pops with it. And then I can set it on top of the other one, and oh, 5x plus 4a minus 5b. So if you wanted to create your own, you could create your own. And if you have questions, you can always hit me up on Twitter. But there's a bunch of folks who are kind of messing with Graspable Math, and the inventors and developers and researchers behind Graspable Math are actually about probably halfway between me and you, because they're in Bloomington, Indiana. So they're all here in the Midwest. So the question came up is, this is not going to be very useful in a remote learning setting. And so that leads to this idea of activities. And so if you want to open up another browser window, and I will be able to check on you. If you would like to open up another browser window, and if you would like to go, if you would like to go to this activities.graspablemath.com. And when you get to that page, I want you to choose student, which would be at the bottom of that page. So I would, yeah, so when you get to Graspable Math Activities, I want you to choose student. I want you to choose student for me.
Hey, Steve, can you, it's probably easier for you. Can you post that link just in the chat window?
I will do that, man. Oh, let's see. Oh my gosh, everything's moving off my screen.
Oh, man.
No, I'm fine. I'm just, this is what happens when it's past my bedtime. All right, ready. You got it. You got that, didn't you, man?
Thanks, Steve.
Okay, so in the chat window, activities, and there is just like in, so this is kind of like going to student.desmos.com, except I'm going to activities.graspablemath.com. And then when you get to this page, I want you to select student, and then the code you put in is ARL4T, and I do think capitalization matters. The next activity we'll do after this is, I will give you the activity which should take you straight to this. Now I'm going to go, so here is, I'm going to go to the teacher dashboard, and I've got some sessions that are already set up. And I want to, Yep, that's the one. So I have a bunch of students on the left-hand side that are kind of already engaged in this. So there is no anonymized feature like there would be in a Desmos classroom, but I can see where students are. All right. And if, oh, chat. So when you go to the activities, activities.graspablemath.com, you'll need to scroll down just a little bit on that page, and there'll be two green buttons at the bottom. One will say teacher, one will say student. The student button will be on the left-hand side, Jackie. At least I hope so. Cool. Awesome. And so, here's why I think this would be a pretty cool way to approach remote learning. I mean, I know you'd like to try to push on with some new things, but there's probably also going to be a good chunk of review things. And I think there's just enough of newness and novelty in this to really keep kids engaged and interested in this for a while. The idea is that this will kind of coach them to the steps, through the steps for simplifying equations and expressions in graspable math. And so I look at task number 7, and I see that there's one person on task number 7 now, but 7 people have gotten task number 7 correct. And if you get down to say task number 11, it might be useful to go to full screen mode so you'll have room enough to drag your coefficients to the side. But here's what task 7. If I click on task 7, this is Eli's work, and so, or is that Ellie? Is it Eli or Ellie? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. And so my request might be to approach it like this. You simplified 1 times 1. Is it possible to do this in a different way? And if it's not possible, why not? And if you wanted, a student could go back and hit the reset button at the top of their page, and they could see what was going on there. And so these are all of the students on this page, and this is for problem number 7. These are all of the students and their answers that they've all got checks by. And so I'm going to go to Karen. Yeah. And so I'm seeing most students. Oh, yes. And so, and I see Omar has gotten here, but has not started this. But, and then almost, there it is. There it is. So I can see this work. So I think this, these activities would be appropriate for remote learning. And so I can scroll through all of the questions if I'd like to, and kind of see what kids are doing or what kids aren't doing. On the, I see some checks. This is the tricky one. Task number 11, when you are trying to move variable expressions around, like the 2y. And so that is where it would be helpful. There's a full screen button that you have on your workspace, and on that full screen button, I'll have room to kind of drag the 2y around. Yes, perfect.
Hey, Steve.
Yes, sir.
Is there a way that you can provide any students feedback over this activity from like the dashboard?
Man, I've
trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there, man. I was looking for that the other day, and I am not sure, as this is now, if there is a way to provide that feedback. But I can at least I can track them, and I can track them in real time. But yeah, I mean, Desmos just came out with that a week ago. Got to give Graspable Math at least another week or so, maybe. Who knows? This is pretty impressive. I mean, I think this is pretty cool. So do me a favor. Do me a favor, everyone. Pause. Take a pause on this activity and throw some comments in the chat window for me. I'd love to know what you guys are thinking about. So throw some things in the chat and tell me what you think. There is a list of activities. I will show you where those list of activities are.
Hey, Steve.
Yes,
One other
sir.
thing too, Jenny had a question about the program doesn't seem to allow the students to get the program wrong or to get the problem. I think it says program, but maybe problem wrong
Yeah.
or make mistakes. But you and I, at least kind of before the chat started, we're talking about that's one of the things we like about it because it only really allows legal moves. But you may want to address that a little bit more.
That is a good question. So I think the way this is set up right now is twofold. This is more about probably teaching kids kind of maybe how to use the tool and to develop like all of these movements in Graspable Math Speaker are called gestures. So there's twofold. They're teaching them the gestures that you need to move the things around in Graspable Math. But at the same time, where their teacher comes in is the teacher can help kind of maybe clarify some things, perhaps through a screencast later on after they're observing student work. Because in some of the, like this is kind of pretty straightforward. This is one of the earlier activities in the list of activities. So this would probably be more appropriate. Not all of these, but most of these would probably be appropriate for some younger grades, maybe back in the middle school. And so, yeah, I don't know if I've answered the question entirely, but I do get what you're saying.
And Stephanie, and I'm bringing up Stephanie's comment about it's kind of she said it's kind of difficult for splitting 2y into y plus y, and you were kind of hinting on that with the gestures, and that's one of those things that it is some of those things are a little bit tricky to learn kind of at first, but they do seem to have a good tutorial about how to do some of those things.
So in the to split that into y plus y, if you go back to that page, and if you can get back to that page, Stephanie, in the upper right-hand corner, there should be a little something that says keyboard. If you press on the keyboard, it will allow you to select the two, like the 2 and the y together. And then a little keyboard should pop up then in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. And that's where you can replace 2y with an equivalent expression, y plus y. But I agree, it's not super easy. I think if I was like what we did at first, I kind of like that a little bit better. Exactly. So if you want to move the coefficient, and I think Karen Campen brought this up earlier, that it's also possible to hold like the shift key down and to select multiple terms that way, so you don't need to drag the 2 way down away from the x. It also seemed the same way to me, that it was a long way to drag the 2 before the x jumped down with it. And that's when you had to change your screen to a full screen. I agree. So let me go back, and I'm going to place another link. And so this link is, I think this link may work. This link is kind of like a Desmos activity link. In other words, I'm going to give you the entire link, and it should, I don't know what's going to happen, honestly. I guess we're going to find out here. I'm going to paste this link in the chat. And this is another, again, I'm using order of operations because it kind of gets a lot of the kind of gestures down, but also I wasn't sure the range of folks on this. And so if there's some teachers of younger students, I wanted to make sure they saw some order of operations, but I think you guys are seeing some things that'll work. So I'm going to paste this into the chat. And this is, so this is kind of like, if you're familiar with Desmos activities, where I can either send them to student.desmos.com and they type in the code, you could do that, but I can also give you a link which just takes you to the activity. And so if you want to try that link, and then I am going to go to my sessions, and this one is called practicing the order of operations. So that one that you guys were doing right there was, the one that you were doing right there was an introduction to the order of operations, and this one is and actually practicing the order of operations. And so I can see at the top of my page and my teacher page, and I know you're probably just, you guys are probably all wrapped up into that stuff you're doing right there. So what I would ask my students to do is I would ask my students to solve this in 2 different ways. So I'm looking at question number 1. If kids are learning the order of operations, they are probably doing 3 times 7 first. And then they're probably doing the plus first, you know what I'm saying? But try to do, I would ask my kids to go back and reset their work and try the problem a different way. And what will happen is all of their work and both of their methods that they've used to get to that answer will show up in their work. So I don't know if Erica did that, but if I click on Erica's page, so she did the 3 times 7. If Erica went back to this problem and pressed reset and went through and solved this again, her work would also be there. So both sets of work would be there, one kind of like in one long page after the other. And so I'll give you guys a chance to tinker with this. If there is any problem that you go through, and I'm not gonna let you go through all of them. I'll probably count to a couple minutes in my head so you can tinker. Feel free to jump around and explore some of the other problems that are in there. I think there are, I don't know how many there are total. Can the student see the step-by-step from the student view, or just the teacher can see it from the dashboard? So the only thing that I can see from the teacher dashboard is what the goal is, what you start with and what the goal is. And then if I click on a student's tile, I see their work step by step. I'm not, I see what you're saying though, because a student just gets right to the final answer, the goal, correct? That's a good thing. I'm gonna make a note of that and let those guys know that. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So, you think, and I agree with you, it would be useful if the students could also see their steps, and not the teacher, student and teacher see steps. I will let the developers know what's going on, and because they like feedback like that. Yeah, because you can't review your own steps. Yeah, I understand that. I understand that. How do I answer number 3? So that's a good, let's see. I have no idea. What's number 3? Oh, and the goal now, okay, so it is very, very possible. I wish I could click on that and do the stinking problem. It is very possible there are a couple of answers that are not correct. So this might be one of them. But let's see, 39 over 3 is 13. 13 minus, yeah, this might be one. Yeah, that's probably a teacher technique, be my guess. So I'm gonna write that down, number 3. So, oh, that's a great question. So on the question was, how do you do number 5? How do you do number 5? So it looks like they're breaking a 38 down into, I don't know what they call that. What do they call that in like an elementary school when they're learning this? Complementary parts or numbers? I don't know what it's called. But factors? I don't, is that factors? Decomposing? I have no idea. So here's what I would do. So if you want to break 38 into 30 plus 8, in the upper right corner of your workspace is the keyboard. Click on the keyboard, and then you can select 38, and the keyboard should open up in the lower left-hand corner. And then you can replace 38 with 30 plus 8. How difficult will this program be for my students to get the hang of? My thoughts are this: if you started at the beginning of the list of problems and let kids work through it, I think they would learn the gestures, and it would probably be okay. I think they would get the hang of it. The Algebra 1 class I worked with most recently, those kids picked up on the gestures rather quickly. And most of them kind of figured out like it was natural just to drag this the other side. The things they had trouble with were like, how do I get the 2 and the X together? I agree that it would be much easier to do this in a face-to-face setting. Being remote already has its challenges, but I think they'll do okay. Yeah, I think number 3 is probably incorrect, isn't it? I would refer to that lovingly as a teacher technique. They want to make sure you're doing the problems. Yeah, I found a couple of incorrect answers yesterday, but I'll try to report those to those guys.
Steve's tired, so that's his excuse.
I say I didn't make these. Now I wonder if I could. I wonder if I could make my own activity. I never thought about trying to make one. So, all right, I'm gonna give you another minute, and I'll turn you guys loose to one more, and then we'll try to wrap this up. Because Justin said these go till midnight. Is that true?
You can go to midnight.
No, I'm not. Midnight your time would be 1 o'clock my time. Okay, so I'm going to put another link in the chat. So do me a favor. Do me a favor. If you guys would place if you guys would write a couple of words in the chat for me. Do you like this? Don't like this? I don't know. Maybe good. Think about it. Might try it. What are you thinking? So the might try it is and that's where the teacher, not if we click through and that's where the teacher, so you might need to maybe come up with some other questions that kind of go along with it. What I would hope would happen is that when you guys get back into a face-to-face, like into an actual school building next year, that hopefully you'll remember this, and that Justin will blast this out to everybody, and whatever I'm sure you guys have some sort of an email blast like we have here. Hopefully you guys will get reminded of this next year.
Well, one thing too is, I think some teachers are just digging for different ways to kind of keep their kids engaged, because I think, the longer our e-learning or remote learning goes on, I think people want to try some different things. And this could be something to pique some kids' interest that you may start to see, oh, they're falling off a little bit, not doing as much stuff. Maybe those kids need something different to work on, just something else to think about.
So here's one more activity, and then I'm going to give you guys maybe just 5 minutes to kind of play with it. Then I'll show you where the activities are for teachers. And so you can get to those activities yourself. So here's another link that's coming up in the chat window. See, I think it's a brain break. I think it's, yeah, it's different, man. It's going to be different. I think remote learning you need to give kids some chances to explore and try different things. I could easily see creating your own kind of a single pager like we started with tonight on the order of operations, and let kids kind of create a very short screencast of themselves solving something using Graspable Math and share that with you. That would be a pretty cool remote learning activity in my mind. So this is my last session. There are 22 tasks involved in this one. I'm going to take a gander at this. And so a lot of you guys have gotten in here. Perfect. I appreciate that. And so this is more about, so this is where you're going to be using the keyboard quite a bit in the upper right-hand corner. Again, you don't have to go straight through. If you want to jump around and try different problems, go ahead. So, but this is where you would probably need to kind of tap and hold equal sign to do. Ooh, tap and hold the equal sign. So that's how you can solve an equation. That's how you can solve. Oh, now I know what they're doing. You tap and hold the equal sign, and then you can go like times 2 to both sides. Ah, it's like E times 2. I'll put the link back in there for you. Here's the link. There you go. I'm sorry. So again, feel free to jump around. Feel free to jump around and move around and find something, you know, if you want to kind of run ahead and see what happens. You know, what I really like about this solving equations, man, is how many times kids will do like something that's not considered the traditional good first step in solving an equation. They'll do it, but they'll do it incorrectly. They'll carry it out incorrectly, and you do it in Graspable Math, it'll carry it out correctly for you. So that is where, I mean, you can't be wrong, but the student can still be surprised by what happens at the end, if that makes sense.
Steve, how do you what tool do you use to decompose a number?
So that would be the keyboard in the upper right-hand corner. What question?
That was the last thing in the chat.
On? What question, like, or what number problem are they on? And number one.
Number 1.
Yeah, and gosh, this is what I need to make a note of this. I wish there was like a teacher. I want to get to an example problem. Oh, so if you want to, if you just kind of click on the equal sign and hold, the calculator should open up in like the bottom left corner of the page. I wonder if it will. That just shows up as complete, so there's really no work for me to see there. Number 7's wrong? Probably is. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is, isn't it? They're doing their best, kids. They're doing their best. All right, I'm trying to make some notes.
Yeah, activities is pretty new, right, Steve?
This is a, I've been playing with this for about a week, and it's very beta, and it's very beta. I'll leave it at that.
And Graspable Math is on Twitter too, so you could feel free if some bug comes up or something to let them know.
They are super responsive to teachers who are playing around with Graspable Math. So kids, do me a favor, kids. Let me just send you. We'll kind of call out the dogs on this. I kind of think I know where folks are, but I don't want to. I'd like my goal is to be done by 10, and so let me put in this link in the chat. This is going to take you to the activities.graspablemath.com page. This is kind of like the teacher.desmos.com page. So welcome to Graspable Math activities, and it's beta. And when you're on this page, oh yeah, 10 o'clock Eastern. Thank you. Yes, it's 10 o'clock my time. I want to be done by 9 o'clock your time or midnight your time. Either way. So on the Graspable Math page, it's very beta. If you would scroll down to where the student and teacher buttons are, and if you want to click on the teacher button, and this gives you a pretty good idea. Now, this is if your first time is in there, it may say upgrade to a premium account on the left-hand side. If you click on that, the premium account is free. So this is probably going to be I don't know if it's going to be a paid service or not. but right now they're offering it free to everybody through the end of July. And they're going to hook you. You know, they're just going to hook you. That's what they're going to do. So on the left-hand side, if you click on the activity bank, these are all of the different activities that are available. And so they start, my thoughts, I think the question came up earlier about, would this be hard for kids to learn how to do? And my thoughts are, if you just kind of took baby steps and honestly started out with the first one, Introduction to Addition, I think they would learn the kind of gestures as you go. And I think the time for students to complete would probably not be too out of the ordinary, perhaps. And so if you would, if you find an activity you want to look at, you can click on the preview, or you can click on the details. But if you'd like to get this to your students, you can click on Make a Session. And so you can create a live session. And when I click on Create a Live Session, of course no one's in there yet. But I've created some sessions already. I have 4 sessions that I've created. You guys have gone through 3 sessions tonight, and I'm super appreciative of your cooperation in going through those activities. Back here on the teacher page, it did say, I thought I saw on the activity bank that I wonder, can I make my own activities? I can make my own activities. Oh, well, there goes this coming weekend. I think I know what I'll be doing this weekend. I'm going to make activities. Yes. So can it be connected? So the on that original problem that we started with tonight on the order of operations, that first activity we did, I could have shared that and assigned that through Google Classroom. So for example, let me go. Let me see if I can get back to that page. So if I created an activity, yeah. Let me close that out. I'm going to open up like this law of exponents, and I want to share this through, and I can assign it in Google Classroom. So it's kind of linked, but it is possible that you could put this in Google Classroom. So that is, you've seen a little bit of Graspable Math, seen a little bit of activities, and now I'm going to have to make my own activity. Not tonight, but I am going to make my own activities. And if you click on the Explore, there are a bunch of other activities that have been made. So like, oh, Nick Corley made one, and David Landy is one of the developers. So I'm going to have to take a gander at this and see how this turns out. So they're kind of creating a bank of activities similar to like the Desmos bank. So anyway, so quick questions, kids. If you have questions about Graspable Math, I know I've hijacked the chat window, but I'm looking at the chat window now. So if you want to put some questions in there, let me know and we'll see what we can answer. Please don't all type at one time. I think this is a great way, Karen, of trying to do, I think it's a great way of like, I think teaching solving linear equations. Have I shared this with parents? I have shared this with parents, yes. My parents that I had last year. So I had a group of seniors who were a year behind their peers. They probably should have taken Algebra 2 as seniors, but instead they took a quantitative reasoning course with me. They would have been crushed in an Algebra 2 class. This was super helpful for those kids, super helpful. And I did share it with their parents. Yes, so if I wanted to go back to the sessions, if I go back to the sessions, the question is can the kids do it on their own time and me go back? So yes, so if I go back to the sessions, I can click on the eyeball and that takes me back to, did not mean to do it that way. So I can see all the student work and the problems and what they've done and like what question they were on or how many questions. I don't know if the 9 out of 22 is they got 9 questions out of the 22 or went through 2, but I can go to each task and I can observe what each student has done. So yes, I can go back and watch this. Can activities be made public or private? That not sure about. Good question though. Do parents find it engaging or use it to support their own children? That these were older kids, so my guess is parents didn't give a heck by then. They were just wanting to get their seniors out of the house, in all honesty. They were good kids. They were really good kids. I love those kids. They were very challenging kids. So multiplying 2 binomials together, I would probably, you can kind of use like the hold the shift key down to drag the entire package and distribute the package through. Factoring is a little more challenging. There are some like factoring patterns that are kind of built into Graspable Math, but they are very, very restrictive. You're not gonna use this to factor quadratics very easily. But multiplying binomials, you can kind of grab the entire binomial and drag it in like you'd do a double distributive property. So how do I add students to a session? You simply send kids, like if you look up here in the upper left-hand corner of my page, I can send that link to them, similar to what I did to you, and you get added to the activity or to the session. I think probably more formative than anything else. I mean, I'm not sure what I get out of this by getting it a quiz, since most of the time it's doing it correctly for you. But I think it could be a good formative thing. So yeah, so the question is, how do I get students into the session? So this link up here in my upper left-hand corner contains the code as well. So it'll put you guys right into the class. If you just went to activities, did not mean to do that. If you just went to the activities.graspablemath.com and clicked on the student button, then you would have to put in the code. But I think I would probably just give this code through my Google Classroom or whoever my LMS is.
Steve, you got a question about adding a graph or GeoGebra. Can you just, you don't have to get fully into a problem. Can you just show that in the...
Oh, I'm going to show this. Are you guys watching this? Kids, this is absolutely the coolest thing ever. Okay, bear with me. If this does not make you go, what? I don't know what will. Okay, ready. So I created a new page, and in the upper left-hand corner, I'm going to insert a graphing page, and I'm just going to let it load. Perfect. It'll spin, and hopefully it will load. My goodness, good. There it loads. And then I'm going to insert. This is going to blow your minds, kids. If this doesn't blow your mind, you're probably because you're asleep. So let's watch this. I'm going to insert an expression, and it's going to be y equals 2x minus 1, and I'm going to click on done, and then watch this. This is going to blow your mind. This is not the only thing that's going to blow your mind, but watch this. I'm going to hover over to the right side. I got that little circle. I'm going to drag that circle over into the graph, and I'm going to let go, and it graphs that equation for me. Now, whoa, that's nothing. That is nothing. But if you like that, you could put something down in there in the chat that said, oh, that's pretty cool. Now, okay, that's kind of awesome. This is half awesome. So watch this. I'll show you this. Now, look up on the left-hand side, there's a tool that has a wrench on it. It's called Scrub. The Scrub tool kind of lets you trace a number, but watch this. This is awesome. I'm going to activate the Scrub tool, and then I'm going to go back over. My equation has little arrows on it, And if I click on that number 2, I just scrub that number up and down, like I click on it and scrub, then I can do that. Then I can do that. Or I can scrub this. Now, I don't ever want to stop at 0, because if I stop at 0, I won't get it back. That's the only bad. Like if I stop there at 0, I'd be stuck. If I stop at 1, I can't scrub anymore either. And the question was, could I go over into this equation and maybe go y equals negative x plus 1. And so I could drag this equation out here and place it into Graspable Math. Let me scrub this equation to make that into a 0. All right, and then so what I could do is, I'm curious to know what that, can I drag that out? No, I'd like to know what that intersection point is. Actually, so I could probably solve a system. I'm gonna try this. I don't know if this is gonna work or not. I'm gonna take this y and drag it to that y. Oh. And then I'm gonna drag this x over to that x. Oh. And I'm gonna, oh, I gotta do that first, okay. Then I gotta click on that. And then I'm gonna drag the 2. And so x is 1/2. And then of course, y is also 1/2 or 0.5. And so if I wanted to find the intersection of those 2 points, I can go to the GeoGebra tools and I can put a point at that intersection. If I go back to the calculator, it's 0.5 and 0.5. So you can do a lot of stuff algebra-wise here. And that's at 10 o'clock. That's the top of the hour. That took us right to 10. Justin? Oh, man. That was freaking awesome.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things I've messed around with most, is solving systems, because I think Aaron talked about linear equations and just how that people have different options. But with systems too, it really allows kids to really throw things any way they want to and work it out. So it's pretty cool.
3D. If you solve a system of 3 equations and 3 unknowns, you can solve that in the 3D graphing calculator and in Graspable Math. It is awesome.
Well, we're gonna let Steve get to bed. He was already complaining, but I want to say that if you want to get in touch with him, he's at Twitter at MathTechCoach. Is that correct, Steve?
That's correct, at MathTechCoach. And I will respond. And if you have questions about doing something, I will typically respond with a screencast of some sort. I'm going to stop my share. And yeah, anything I can do to help you guys out, just let me know.
All right, Steve. Well, thank you so much. Before everybody logs off, I again want to thank Steve. He came on such short notice and put this together in less than a week. So I really want to give him a lot of credit for that. Also, we have our white book giveaway. So in the chat window, type in the word white book, and you'll be randomly selected to win a white book flip chart. Like I said, it's a $60 value, and we really appreciate White Book. We really appreciate Steve and Graspable Math for letting us kind of show all these things. So anyway, Steve, like I think you just did a good job, but you have quite the learning curve. You've been messing with this for a while though, so there's some struggles when you're new to it, but the tutorials are pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. There's some nice tutorials there, and like I said, you just got to tinker with it and play, and you'll kind of learn the things.
Well, thank everybody so much. We really appreciate it. I'll keep the window open for a little bit more to make sure you guys can type in White Book